I would like to introduce you to Jason Swanson, who is a futurist working for Knowledgeworks. And he is here today to talk to us about what it means to be a futurist, some experiences that he's had, the education that prepared him to be a futurist, and some other personal insights into what his life as a futurist is. So welcome, Jason, to our MOOC, the Emerging Future, Technology Issues and Trends. I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to meet, and I'd like to start off by acknowledging that you are a futurist. And can you describe for us what it is that you do and the kinds of places where you've been employed to put your future background to work, so to speak?
Certainly. So first off, I'd like to express my appreciation and thank you for having me today. As you pointed out, that is my vocation. So currently, I work for the Knowledgeworks Foundation as their Director of Strategic Foresight. So I'm part of their Policy and Foresight team. So my role is really to work directly with their Senior Director of Strategic Foresight, and together we explore what the future of learning might be. We research and produce various forecasts focusing in on different aspects of what we call the learning ecosystem, as well as engage with a wide variety of stakeholders to help them understand the implications of change and really help our stakeholders translate what's written in our forecasts to really forward-looking visions of the future and help them understand really the strategic implications of those scenarios. Prior to coming to Knowledgeworks, I worked, and I still do from time to time, with a market research firm called Aperio Insights out of Dallas, Texas. Aperio, the best way to put it is they're run by really some master market researchers, and they had found over time that they were getting a lot of questions about the far future. So as market researchers, they would help their clients figure out the near term, and then the client would turn around and go, hey, great, what's going to happen in 10 years? So through Aperio, I had the opportunity to consult with a lot of Fortune 100 companies. I've been a research associate for the European Futures Observatory, which is a nonprofit futures research firm out of England, and we really took a look a lot at economics and world economy futures. And lastly, I worked for charter and cyber charter schools, helping them to think about the future in various capacities.
When you were in these different organizations, are you the sole futurist, or are there others? I would think in Knowledgeworks, where you are now, for certain. But were you the token futurist, or were there others in those organizations?
Oh, there were certainly others. So with Knowledgeworks, I work with one other strategic foresight person. Her name is Catherine Prince. She's a very, very talented woman. And then we work hand in hand with their policy group, both national and state policy. So we really work hand in glove, and it's a very cyclical relationship where what we do helps them inform policy recommendations, and then they can kind of give us a really in-depth view into the political side of the spectrum when considering futures. So not only do I have another futurist with me, I have a lot of folks that are kind of on the periphery and understand futures thinking very well. With Aperio, their principal and CEO, Mike Courtney, is a very, very talented futurist, but if you would ask him, he's probably a market researcher first. But again, very, very futures literate. And there would be other futurists that would come on board, and we would work together around these projects. The charter school, I was pretty much the sole practitioner there. And then at the European Futures Observatory, there was a handful of futurists that worked there as well. So most of my professional experience has been very collaborative in nature, and I think that that's what gives you the strongest product or output. Being that we're dealing with the future, there's no data point for any of this. So we have trend lines which bring us up to the present, and then from there we're making a lot of assumptions about what we think these images of the future would be like. So when I make those assumptions, I carry with me my own personal bias, as anyone does. So one of the neat things about considering the future is really all the perspectives that we get when we begin to work with everyone else. So your perspective is different than mine, so your visions of the future and your forecast would probably be a little bit different than mine. So if we're able to engage in dialogue about those differences in perspective, we can hopefully mitigate the biases that we each have and come out with hopefully stronger, more interesting forecasts.
Well, it certainly sounds like all organizations do need to have a futurist and people thinking toward that. But I'm assuming that you just didn't start out wanting to be a futurist, that your path took you in different ways. I know that you got a degree in future studies at the University of Houston, and I was wondering if you could tell us what led you there out of all the different programs, and how did the curriculum prepare you to become a futurist?
Sure. So, the path to University of Houston for me was kind of a long and winding one. And in the interest of time, I'll give you the abbreviated version in that my undergraduate degree was in public policy. And when I when I graduated and received my degree, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. So I bounced around from kind of job to job, career to career, and really tried my hand at a lot of things. And really was a little bit distraught because I hadn't found that thing that clicked for me. I ended up going to an event that a friend of mine had put on, and he was going to have a futurist speak, and I'd never heard of what a futurist was before, but I knew my friend put on pretty interesting events, so I went. And the futurist got up and he was speaking, and he was brilliant, and he was also really, really funny. So deeply, deeply engaging, but it was what I call the lightning bolt moment where I was like, this is it. This is how I think. I can't believe somebody would get paid for this. So I kind of did what any normal, reasonable person would do, is I went and cornered him. And I said, hey, how did you get into this? And he gave me kind of his story of how he ended up as a futurist. So I had an endpoint in mind, but I didn't know the path to get there still. So he came from the world of competitive intelligence and began working for a futurist that showed him the ropes. So on one hand, I was really thrilled. Here's this career that I can identify with and I would absolutely love. We can see no intellectual end to. But on the other hand, I was a little sad because I didn't know how to get there. So I sat down at the table and I was telling the person that sat next to me all about how I was so excited. And the person that sat next to me was a brilliant futurist named Jim Lee. And Jim had graduated also from the University of Houston's Future Studies program. And he gave me all the information, and I went home that night and I emailed Dr. Peter Bishop, who then got back to me, and the rest was history. There was no looking back. So that's kind of how I got into the program. Now, in terms of how the programs prepared me for work in the professional world, I really can't begin to tell you. Pretty much everything I've learned through the Future Studies program I've put into practice. So it was very, very formative for me in terms of my professional life. It was a transformative experience for me, even in terms of my personal life. Really in terms of job preparation, I think that really ties into how their programs run. So the University of Houston program, it's the longest running Foresight program in the world. So their courses themselves are very, very unique. They're very thought-provoking in that there's a great intersection of perspectives and methods. So the U of H program is very, very heavy on methods of looking at the future. So it really allowed me to develop concepts and skills I use pretty much every day because it's so rooted in the perspective of methods. The emphasis at University of Houston was really, like I said, built around these methods for looking at the future, but their eye was always towards professional preparation and application. And it's one thing to have a really, really skilled professor from the academic end, which they all are, but they're also all professional futurists as well. So not only do I get the academic end of things, but I also get the professional insight. So, you know, to say that I can't overstate, you know, what a great job they did in preparing me for the working world and to enter, you know, my career as a futurist.
Can you tell us just a little bit about the length of the program, and was it all face-to-face or was it online? And did that make a difference?
Sure. Okay, so the program's blended, so you can certainly go face-to-face. I'm from Pennsylvania, so I did not move to Texas. Rather, I did their blended option. So they have a very strong online option, which, you know, it leans towards synchronous. So you can log in and participate live with your classmates and your professors, although that synchronous piece is by no means mandatory. And it's project-driven work. So because we're trying to develop skills and methods, it's an iterative form of learning where we would go take those methods and apply them to projects and send them back and forth for insights and really for assessment and critique. The program itself, I believe, is 32 credits. So you have the choice between a master's project, an internship, or a thesis at the end. So yeah, I think that ticks off all the boxes. I believe it's 32 credits. I might have to check back in. You have to forgive me.
Well, that's okay. We just needed some idea of what was available. Now, you and I met when we were at the World Future Society this summer, and in an informal setting. So that is certainly one way to meet futurists. Do you have other kinds of advice for what people who may also have that aha moment that this is what I really like to do? How should they start?
Oh, a great question. So the first thing I would tell anybody that has an interest in the field is I would say really it would be to get involved. I would reach out to and join the Association of Professional Futurists, also known as the APF, and you can join it as a student member as well, so that there would be a wealth of information on how to pursue this as a career path and looking at methods. And I would look to join places like the World Future Society as well. So I would really try to get in touch with the community at large. So the futures community is a really great place. And there's really a pay-it-forward mentality to this industry that really isn't found in a lot of other industries. So reach out, get involved. I would also recommend trying to find a mentor or really any sort of internship opportunity you can. So you really need to simply just go out there and do the work. You need to be fearless. The learning curve to future studies is really a public learning curve. So to anybody that's interested, I would tell them not to worry about messing up or being scared of critics. So when you're dealing with the future, as I said, there's no real data point for any of this. So that feedback, that mentorship, those critiques, and that shared perspective is really priceless. And then really the last piece of advice I would give for anybody thinking about this field, and it seems a little cliched, is, you know, you've got to love what you do. And with future studies in particular, you know, in many ways the role of a futurist, it's much more than a career choice. It's more like a lifestyle. So it's not a job or a way of thinking that really stops when you clock out or leave the office. So those would be my advice. But, you know, be fearless. Love, you know, if you're going to do it, absolutely do it. Start doing the work. Look for a mentor and definitely reach out to the community.
Well, Jason, you have given us such a great overview into the life of a futurist, how you got there individually, personally, and some advice on how people can do it. Before we leave today's session, I wanted to just put this back up on the screen, and I'm not sure that you said it at the beginning, that this is your Twitter feed. If people want to contact you, can they get to you at either location?
Absolutely. So that first URL is our Knowledgeworks URL for anybody that's interested in any of our forecasts. So we have a lot coming out over this next year. So if you have any interest in the work that we've done or that we're doing, please check out the link. And then underneath of that, you see my Twitter handle. So anybody out there that has any questions or would like to connect, I'm always happy to chat. So feel free to connect with me in the Twitterverse.
I'm just typing this right into the chat box so people can see it, but we'll also send out the links in addition to this. I would like to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with us and to extend the invitation for others to get in touch with you. So thank you once again, and we look forward to seeing what you will do as a futurist in the future.
Absolutely.